Welcome to Problem Solved, the podcast where me and a special co-host solve all your problems really easily, probably.
Problems? Are you kidding me? I don't have any problems. Okay, I might have a few, but I can work on them with you. Come on.
This is a podcast where we explore the intricate world of relationships and navigate the complexity of mental health together. I am Jeff Gunther, a licensed therapist, but in this space, I'm your host, not your personal therapist or the therapist for our guests. This show offers a platform for open conversations about relationship and mental health challenges, providing insights and perspectives for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's crucial to remember that our discussions do not replace professional therapy or constitute a therapist-client relationship between myself, our callers, or you, our listeners. If you're dealing with personal struggles or seeking support, I urge you to consult with a qualified professional who can provide the personalized care you deserve. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Problem Solved. I am Jeff Gunther, licensed professional counselor, and my girlfriend is interviewing me today. How fun! Her name is Amy, and she's very sweet. I love her a lot, and she asks very good questions about my book that comes out today, babes. Go to your local bookstore. You can get it at Target. You can get it at Powell's. You can get it at Amazon. Wherever you buy your books, Barnes & Nobles, and ask for Big Dating Energy because today is the day that it comes out finally. Oh my fucking God, it's been forever. I'm so excited that it's out and now that we can all get on the other side of the book launch. It is my favorite piece of art that I have ever created. I think that you're going to like it a lot. It's very funny, educational. It's edutainment. What a dumb word. But it is. That's what it is. And if you want to see me live in New York City on Wednesday, July 10th at 7 p.m., you can come to the 92nd Street Y. There are still tickets available. The best part of being Therapy Jeff is actually interacting with you in person. I'm going to be in conversation with Zach Noe Towers. He's going to be asking me lots of questions about the book and whatever the fuck else we feel like talking about. Then afterwards, I'm going to be available to sign your book, take pictures with you. It's going to be very sweet. You will love me in person, even more than you love me in your little dumb phone. So I'll be at the 92nd Street Y on Wednesday, July 10th at 7 p.m. And I love this episode. It is incredibly cute and so loving. And I don't know. I think maybe my girlfriend should start her own podcast. I would subscribe and give her 5 stars, just like you are giving me 5 stars for this episode. Okay. The book is out. Okay, great. Let's do this. Today is a very special day. I'm here with my girlfriend. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Amy.
Hi,
Jeff's
Amy.
our girlfriend.
You already fucked up.
I
You're Jeff's
did.
girlfriend? Is that what
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend.
Yeah, I did already fuck up.
Oh, that's okay. It's very sweet and endearing. How long have we been dating, Amy?
Oh my goodness. 7 or 8 months?
7 or 8 months, yeah. We know each other pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much in love.
Yeah.
Having a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everybody how we met?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I am an OG Therapy Jeff fangirl. So I've been following Jeff's content since, well, it's been years. What did you start Therapy Jeff, like 2020?
No, September 21.
Okay, yeah. I've probably been there since the beginning. And so, yeah, I've always loved your content. So I followed originally on TikTok, got off of TikTok somehow, then followed you on Instagram, listened to all your podcasts. And here I am now interviewing you on your podcast.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, you were telling me earlier before we hit record that this is kind of like a funny moment for you.
Yeah, pinch me. I can't believe it.
Right? Yeah. Well, I'm excited to talk to you about my book that comes out today.
Yay! Congratulations.
Thank you. And I thought that it would be great if you could ask me a few questions. I know that you're a very good question asker. You're asking me so many great questions throughout the day.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you'd have lots about the book that I think that a lot of people would also find interesting.
Yeah.
So.
And I want to start by saying I've gotten a sneak peek of the book Jeff has read me some of it, and I've also gotten to hear the audiobook, and it's incredible. You've worked like so hard on it, and I'm like so proud of you, and I think your audience is going to love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really special book with like your unique flair. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And so I'm really excited to ask you more about the process and your inspiration and what it's like being Therapy Jeff, and maybe pulling the curtain back on like the behind the scenes process of your creativity in general.
Yeah, I'd love to answer those questions. And you've been like my main supporter throughout this whole time. And it's been really sweet and touching. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Oh, what an honor. Okay. So yeah, let's just start by the title of your book is Big Dating Energy. What big energy are you exuding right now on the day of your book launch? How are you feeling?
God, I feel like I have energy in so many different places. I'm excited that it's going out there into the world. I can't wait to hear what regular people think about the book. I've only heard about what, me and my co-author and my publishing team thinks about the book. So I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling really excited. I'm feeling a lot of relief because it's like, okay, here it is. Finally, I've been working on this for like 2 years, but I feel like I've been working on this ever since I started Therapy Jeff. And then even before that, it's just sort of been brewing. And it was something that maybe I kind of like tossed around when I was a younger therapist, thinking that I might write a book, but that felt so lofty and incredibly impossible. So now all of a sudden it's here and it's being released to everybody. And I can't wait to see what's on the other side of this.
Oh, I'm so excited too. And as you're saying that, it strikes me that so much of the work you do, your content, you work on it and you might post it later that day. What is it like to work on something for 2 years and then wait for the release of it? Whereas your video work, your podcasts have a lot more of a immediate release.
Yeah, it's weird. I think that I've been used to creating content and posting it that day or the next day. And it's kind of, it's nice that you create a thing, a piece of work or art, and you put it out there and then it's done and you move on to the next thing. There's something kind of, it does well or bad or medium. And then you get to kind of like focus on the next thing. It's similar to, when you make a bad play or a good play in sports and you have this moment and then you move on to the next play and that's the only thing that you need to be concentrating on. So that's sort of satisfying. And this is a little different because I haven't been able to do that. And it allowed me to sort of like ruminate on it longer than I wanted to, but it allowed me to edit it over and over again, which made me feel like, okay, I'm getting something that's going to be really high quality. It was weird because I got to work on it with a team when I haven't ever worked on any of my content like as a team. So I don't like it that much.
The process of writing a book.
The process of writing a book, also just the process of working on something for 2 years.
Sure.
Because I also got tired of it at different times throughout the process. And there's a lot of like waiting on people to get back to me.
Right.
And that whole thing. So I don't think it really fits my style, but it was a good growing opportunity.
Well, in that vein too, how do you feel like people are so familiar with who you are on screen? How does that translate to the page? Do people still get that Therapy Jeff that they're used to seeing and hearing? How does Therapy Jeff differ from Author Jeff?
I'm a little interested in what you think about that, because I think I don't know if I can answer that accurately.
I really felt like so like pleasantly surprised that your voice is so intact in the book. Because I've read like a lot of sort of, I don't know, would you categorize this as a self-help book? Mm-hmm. I've read a lot of self-help books and they can come across so like, sterile or impersonal and maybe boring. And your book is so fun and funny. And like, I can, even just reading the text, I hear your voice. And furthermore, in the audiobook, it's very much like your personality, your silliness, your goofiness, your humor. So I think it translates really well. And I was like pleasantly surprised that your essence isn't lost on the page.
Yeah, that was a really big deal for me to find a publisher that would allow me to have like the Therapy Jeff voice.
Yes.
So they allowed me to have that. There's been a few people who have accidentally received the book in Germany.
Oh, what? How did that happen?
It happened a week ago.
What?
There was a publishing error in the UK. They sent it to a few people in Germany. I don't know why. But there was somebody who posted a story about it on their Instagram. And the one thing that they said is, I'm reading this in Therapy Jeff's voice.
Right.
And I thought that was, okay, perfect.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was aiming for.
I can totally see how that happened because that's how I hear it. Yeah, speaking of your voice, like you're known for like your authentic voice, like blending humor with insightful advice. And of course, like a love for 90s music. When people scroll through your feed, they can watch one video about like coping with the intense painfulness of a breakup, and the next may like address something as silly as what to do when you fart on a first date. Can you tell us how you have found your authentic voice, especially since this book, a major theme in this book is being authentic to yourself throughout the dating process, and you're known for your authenticity. So how did you find that in both your life and in your creative practice?
I saw this question on a little Google Doc that you shared with me a few days ago, and I think it's been bouncing around my head. And I do like something that I have so much fun with is being authentic and being silly. And I think that a lot of it comes from my adolescence and not so much having like a Arrested Development in my adolescence in the 90s, but having a lot of nostalgia for that time. And especially during high school between 14 and 18 years old, there was that felt like such an important time in my life. There was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of emotions. There was a lot of anger and angst. And I really stepped into my identity. You actually, one of your favorite songs of all time is a song called Not Jeffrey.
Yeah.
And
I love that song.
It's a great song, but no, you can't find it on the internet. It's just on my phone.
Yeah.
And I only play it for friends. But it was this time when I was about 14 or 15 years old. I went by Jeffrey the whole time, my whole childhood. And then eventually things started to change in my family. There was drug abuse and some neglect and reject and abandonment. And I changed from Jeffrey to just Jeff. And it was a really big transition. I didn't realize it at the time. I was just like, I prefer Jeff instead of Jeffrey. Yeah. And that's when I really stepped into my identity and became even closer with my friends that I'd grown up with since first and second grade. And that very silly, irreverent personality that developed during that time was a personality that helped me cope with really hard times that I was experiencing, and I hold near and dear to me. When I grew up into my early 20s, I was still acting really adolescent. And it wasn't working. I was getting fired from jobs. I was being annoying at work, which I thought was cool and kind of punk rock, but wasn't going to work out for me for the rest of my life. And so it turned into this thing that I kind of put on the shelf and I pull out whenever I want, and I get to play with it and have a good time with it. And that comes through in my content and it comes through in the book. And, but once used to be a coping mechanism. This sort of personality is now something that I get to like choose to be in and out of. And it's also something that I think resonates with a lot of people. So it's a way for me to authentically show up and connect with people that are watching my content and be really fun.
Oh, I love that. It's really beautiful that out of this like really challenging period of your life, you like captured your authentic voice. And I love that a part of it is a silliness and a playfulness, because that's so joyous. And yeah, not only does it show up in your content, but it shows up in your relationships, your friendships. But I experience a lot of it. And I love how like silly and playful you can be. And one of my favorite things about you is that during conflict, your like rescue attempts can often include humor. And like, I think as adults, like we just lose some of that lightheartedness and you don't. And I think it's such a gift that you share within your work too. And I think in the art world, sometimes there's this misconception that art has to be serious in order to be important. And I think you do such an incredible job of blending serious work with lighthearted humor. And you get that real, what do you call it? Entertainment, education. What's that mix?
Edutainment.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a really special part. And like, it really shines in your book, getting so much incredible advice and information, but still laughing throughout.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons we're a really good match is because if I do...
Because I laugh at all your jokes.
Yes. If I am silly during a fight and I'm trying to use it as a rescue attempt, there's at least a smirk that goes across your face, if not a lot more. So
yeah, I can't help myself. Can't stay mad at you. Since this is such a major theme in your book, and you've found a way to be like such your authentic self in such a vulnerable way, I know like so much of your content is like 5 ways you can do this. If I'm forced you to say one way you can capture or be your authentic self, what like one piece of advice would you give listeners to do? I know it's a tough question.
That is. It's when you limit me to just one.
Right.
It's good. It's good. It's good for me. And this is the sort of answer that I roll my eyes at, but maybe I shouldn't. Where I think that we all know where our authenticity lives inside of us. Like it's kind of a gut feeling, or your intuition is telling you how you can be in alignment with yourself. It feels like a really playful, sweet, loving, silly, real place. I want to be able to be like, here's like 5 steps that you can take in order to get in touch with your authenticity, but it's more of a feeling.
Sure.
And it's also kind of sometimes when you step into that authentic self, whether it's you're being authentic in your work or in your art or in your relationship or in your community, whatever, it sort of feels like you're incredibly energized. You're in alignment with your soul. Again, this is all it's not doing anything for you. That I feel like, I don't know if like people are, I like to give step-by-step process of how to find it, but this is more of a feeling that you intuitively enter into.
Right.
And so that's what I would encourage you all to do for yourselves.
Yeah. That's great advice, honey. So a lot of your work, pretty much all of your work centers around relationships, which can be very self-reflective and introspective. What did writing, what was going on in your life when you were writing Big Dating Energy? What was going on with your romantic relationships at that time? And furthermore, how did writing that book help you learn more about that or learn more about yourself?
So I signed the contract with the publishing company probably in September or October of 2022. And then I didn't start working on the book until January of 2023, like actually sitting down to write the book.
What was that delay? Was it just brainstorming in that time, or?
I was going through a lot of grief and sadness.
Sorry,
I
honey.
was in a relationship for a couple years, and then it ended, and it felt like it ended in a messy, sort of abrupt way. And I was supposed to start on it in the fall or, of 2022. And I was going through a lot of grief, and it was difficult to write a book about relationships that was like inspiring.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I was trying to do that. I was attempting to write the introduction to the book, and I was angry and sad and overwhelmed with loss. So it took a while, and then in January, so I have a co-author, and that co-author is Kate Happ.
Yay,
and
Kate.
She's a long time writing partner. We also used to be married in my 30s for about 7 years, and she was just really patient. We had sort of a system that we had worked out where I would write a chapter and then I would send it to her, and then we'd go back and forth on editing it together. And she was just like, take your time, take as long as you need to take. And I think the first introduction that I sent her finally in January, she did a lot of editing. That was the most edited Kate chapter.
Why is that? What was going on that it needed so much editing, or?
She took out all the sadness, all the anger, all the frustration.
Yeah.
There wasn't a ton, but it was in there. Because sometimes when it's, it was inside of my body and I was writing,
you
and I didn't realize, I need to get it out. I didn't realize all the times it was coming out sometimes in that introduction chapter.
Right. Wow, that's really reflective to see.
It was, but I was also, I wrote the introduction chapter, she sent it back to me, and I was like, this doesn't sound like me. And this is too much. She changed it too much, is what I found. So there was a lot of sort of coming to Jesus moment of, am I in the right mental space to write this?
Right.
Is Kate going to be the one that writes most of this book? What is this writing partnership going to look like?
Right.
And so we talked about it and we figured it out. And it was the next chapter 1, that felt a lot more like my voice. And then looking back on the introduction, it just she wrote it, she helped me write it in such a way that made it fit just perfectly. So Kate knows my voice.
Right.
She's been helping me write for 15 years or something. And so really, it felt like it wasn't my voice, the introduction, but when I went back, once I was not filled with grief anymore, it felt like it was 100% therapy, Jeff. She just kind of got me there instead of me getting there myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds like it was healing to write that and to have someone who's as close to you as Kate, look at that work too and reflect back to you what you were going through at the time. Yeah.
And I remember feeling really overwhelmed, being like, can I write a whole book? Do I really have enough to say? I can write a TikTok, which is between 300 and 450 words, but can I write a 70,000 word book? Because it seems like that'd be hard to do, to go on that journey from a little TikTok to a full book. But as I started to write it, and especially when I jumped into chapter 1, the hardest part about chapter 1, which is it's your parents' fault, was that I was constantly saying to Kate, this is an entire book. Chapter 1 should be its own book.
Sure.
I could write 100,000 words on why it's your parents' fault.
You definitely could.
You've heard more than 100,000 words on why it's your parents' fault. So that's what actually gave me a lot of motivation and confidence. Like, oh, I can do this. If
Yes.
every chapter did feel like that it could be its own book.
Yeah.
And that made it a lot. And then that I kind of was able to step into my confidence and esteem and feel like I can actually create this.
Yeah. And a funny side note is that every single one of your chapter titles is like laugh out loud, hilarious. Like your book is so infused with humor that even the titles are funny. But you brought up Kate, which I wanted to talk about. I think it's really, you guys have this really beautiful and special friendship. And that doesn't always happen post-divorce. Not only are you close friends, but you decide to collaborate on this book. Do you want to give us some insight into, why you did that and how that reflects on your view of relationships in general?
Yeah. I really like my relationship with Kate. I always have. We have such a strong friendship base, and that's always been there. And I think that was the main thing that kept us together as long as we were together, is that we just have this incredibly connected friendship, and this ease, just kind of being together. And I, because of the sort of groundedness, she acted as an anchor sometimes, some like really steady, predictable.
Yeah, I can see
force.
her being that for you.
Yeah, which allowed me to not be that as much. And that's when I was able to step into my creativity or start little different businesses and really experiment with, my voice and find my authenticity. And she is a trained writer and has always been a writer, and she's a really good writer. So whenever I would write anything, I would show it to her and she would quickly, give me feedback and edit it for me. And she just kind of learned what my voice was from the very start, and all the projects that I would do, she would have a hand in it. And she would just kind of make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. She makes things more readable. She makes things pop. She's a big part in why it's like a funny manuscript.
You guys do have like great banter, and I think that like shows up in the book.
Yeah. And she also can put me in my place sometimes, which comes through in some of the writing in the book, which is very cute, I think. And I also wanted it to be like, here's an example of sort of one of the themes in the book that we thought we were going to make into an even bigger theme, is that in any relationship, there's no wasted effort.
Right.
You learn about yourself, you get more in touch with yourself, you grow, you evolve with your partner, and relationships act as a mirror. And here's how the mirror that was reflected back to me when I was with Kate and with other people. And it feels like it's a really good example of that. I've grown, she's grown. Our friendship base has always been there, and we still haven't abandoned it because it's so strong.
Right. And there's no need to abandon it, even if the romantic part of your relationship didn't work out.
Yeah, exactly. So, and she's written a few novels. So she's a writer.
Yeah.
She knows how to write a fucking book.
Yeah.
And I don't. So that was really helpful.
Definitely. When, we're talking a little bit about the process of writing a book. When did you find was there like an environment or a time of day where you got your best ideas, or how your creative process works best?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I feel like you're somebody who has their notes app, and like whenever an idea comes to you, you're typing it down in your phone.
Yeah. Whenever ideas come to me, I type it into my phone. Whenever I do create work or art or a script, it's during the day. It's really light outside.
Yeah.
I don't ever work during the evening.
Sure.
I usually sit in a really comfy spot and just go for it and try not to force it. But every now and then you do have to force it when there's a bit of a deadline, which was helpful throughout. But yeah, I feel like I don't have any tips or I don't have like a lot of insight into that because it just it happened when it happened. It happened on a good enough timeline.
Yeah.
I completed all my work when I was supposed to.
Very impressive. Way to go,
And
babe.
it was a very natural process.
Wow. You mentioned that you were, you thought that maybe the theme of like no wasted effort might have been a bigger part of the book. Is there any titles or chapters or ideas in the book that were left on the cutting room floor that you want to revisit in the future or you wish were in there, have regrets about? What was edited out of this book, if anything?
Well,
other than the sadness.
I spent a while trying to figure out if there was a way that I could create little quizzes that people could take in the book to understand what their relationship style was.
Interesting.
And come up with new terms and definitions. And when I was doing that, it just wouldn't work out. I couldn't create the quiz that made enough sense to me. I couldn't create these little charts and graphs that were clear enough. I couldn't come up with like clever enough names for new terms or something. And I was spending a ton of time doing that, and that felt incredibly overwhelming. I made it so that I wasn't actually starting the writing. And so I eventually was like, you know what, I'm going to put that to the side and just start to write instead of trying to come up with all these new terms out of nowhere. And then eventually I wrote the whole book. Yeah. And I was like, you know what, this is great. I love how it turned out. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I just need to put all the best information in one space.
Right.
That's like progressive and interesting and helpful. And sometimes I feel like it's really obvious information, and then I read a chapter to somebody and they're like, I had no idea. So so part of it was getting over this. Is this valuable enough information? And it turns out that it is. So I feel good about that. Me and Kate first had our first idea for a title was called, we just wanted to make it really short and snappy. And so the first title was called Date Great. Ooh. Yeah. So, rhymey. And we thought, two big words on the cover or something. And our editors quickly said no to that.
Ooh, why not?
Every publisher that we talked to, we had to be like, okay, here's our book. It's called Date Great. And it was a little writing sample of what that book was going to be called. And every single publisher said, nope, it can't be that.
Why not?
Because they're like, we need more information about what this book actually is. And it just doesn't, you just don't get it in that. So I don't even know. I mean, it feels the same as big dating energy.
Right.
I don't know.
Is that more
I know,
specific?
Right?
I guess it points more to the humor of it.
I guess it does, yeah. But me and Kate were trying to come up with alternative titles, and we came up with a handful, and every single time we give it to the publisher, they're like, meh, meh, no, this isn't really working. And so we were just like, I guess you're the expert on titles, so why don't you tell us what you think? So then the publisher came back with 10 different titles that we got to choose from.
Oh, so you chose this title from your publisher?
My publisher came up with this. It wasn't me.
Oh, it seemed like it was very Jeff.
And that's why I chose it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
It does feel very Jeff. But the other title that it was competing with that I really enjoyed and nobody else really enjoyed was Love in This Economy.
That's a great title.
I know. But I was the only one that liked that one. But I also really enjoyed Big Dating Energy.
Yeah, it's more snappy than Love in This Economy.
It is a lot more snappy. And then they asked us to come up with a subtitle, which is basically describing the book and how to create lasting love by tapping into your authentic self. I'm really happy with that, and the whole book is about tapping into your authenticity. The only thing I was worried about was like, is authenticity played out? Are we over authentic? Like, shut the fuck up about authenticity. But I think I did it in a good way.
Yeah, you did it in a very authentic, unique way to you.
Right,
in a very, I don't like this word. It doesn't quite capture it, but I want to say you did it in a very like digestible way.
Mm.
Like it's very, another word that undersells it, but it's very palatable. Like, yeah, there's a cheesy cringe way to talk about authenticity, and you do it in such a punk, badass, funny way.
Good. That's what I was aiming for.
Yeah. You mentioned these quizzes that you thought you were going to put in at one point, and I think longtime Therapy Jeff fans will be really excited to hear that there's journal prompts in there. When I used to, before we knew each other, every once in a while, there'd be a video of yours of like 5 questions to ask yourself if you're ready to date or something. And I would take out a pen and paper and write them down and journal. And so I was really excited to see that there was prompts in here. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So at the end of each chapter, there are 12 prompts that get you, that obviously relate to the chapter that you just read. And they get you thinking about what you want, what you care about, the type of partner that you're looking for, where you are on your journey. It gets you to get more specific about what you're desiring. And the feedback that I get from everybody is that they really enjoy those questions. That allows them a chance to get in touch with who they really are. All of these questions are questions that you could also ask with your partner or partners. So it also helps to connect anybody that you're with. And it's just, I don't know, it feels so accessible.
Yeah.
And instead of just absorbing something and reading about it, it kind of challenges you.
Right. It makes you an active participant rather than just a passive listener in it.
Exactly. And all of the questions help you get in touch with your authentic self in one way or another. So.
That's so great, honey.
Thank you, sweetie.
I'm going to bring up something that's a little bit of a debate between us. That I had misunderstood the title as Big Dating Energy because we think that there's a difference between dating and being in a relationship. Like we have this semantic difference where I think dating is something you do before you get into a relationship. And so I thought this book was just about going on dates before you get into a relationship, but it's not. It's about everything.
Turns out you're wrong.
Yeah. Well,
Which is common in our relationship.
Yes,
I'm the right one, you're the wrong one.
That's definitely
you're
a common theme.
So much from me.
For other listeners who maybe had the same misconception as I did.
I think you're the only one.
No.
But yes, maybe. There's a couple others out there. But honestly, that was part of the reason why maybe I didn't want to choose this title, Big Dating Energy. And even the original title of Date Great.
Right.
Because when you put that word on a book, then sometimes people hyper-focus on just the beginning part.
Right. So it covers everything from dating to being in a relationship all the way to breakups. Is that right?
Yes. But it starts with, like I said, the first chapter is it's all your parents' fault. And then it goes on to the next chapter of Blame Society so that we can really get in touch with why you are the way you are and where your relationship issues come from. I mean, it's a little tongue in cheek, right? Where we're just, we're blaming everybody besides you for the first couple chapters because I'm just here to really connect with you and be angry at everything that you have a lot of valid.
You're a toxic validator if you know anything.
Yes, I am a toxic validator. And now, after we have a connection and we are toxically validating each other, then it goes into what can you do? What can you do to start to own your issues, figure out how to heal them inside of a relationship, get yourself ready, your mental health ready to get out there into the dating world, and then take that next step to either meet people in real life or on the dating apps or go on those first dates, get through the honeymoon period, what happens when the honeymoon period ends. Then there's like the big chapters of what...
I was going to say, our honeymoon phase is never going to end. What happens with that?
You and I stop at chapter 5.
Yeah, right. We don't need the rest of the book.
Yeah, because then the rest of the book is like, What do you do if you have trouble going through
Oh,
conflict?
that never happens
Never
with
happens
us.
with us. What
Not
happens
at
if you have
all.
sexy problems? What are you
No.
going to do? Our sex has been so natural and easy the whole time.
It's been amazing. 10 out of 10.
Yes. And then it goes into how to, like a blueprint on how to have a healthy long-term relationship, how to end a relationship, how to cope with going through the grief of being broken up with, how to stay single if you want to hang out for a bit, and then how to get back out there if you want. And I think that from the time you read like the beginning intro and you go through those 12 prompts and then all the way to the end and you read the last chapter and you go through the 12 prompts, you'll see a lot of growth. And oftentimes that's kind of the same sort of thing that happens in therapy. You come in for your first session, you're a certain way, and then after a year of being in therapy, you look back at your first session, you're like, wow, look at that. I've really grown and I'm more authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really helpful to hear that, like, yeah, this book is for anybody in any stage of their dating status journey. Yes. We've only read that first half together, and like I've already found it to be incredibly useful, even though I'm not going out on dates and we're in a relationship. So
we are going out on dates
we are.
together.
That's true. We are. We're not. Oh my goodness. Semantics, technicalities.
I also like the book because I wrote it in such a way where if you're coming in and struggling with a specific thing,
You can pick up on that.
just start on that fucking chapter.
Exactly. Right.
I guarantee that you'll read that chapter and then want to read all of the chapters.
Right.
But you can start wherever you want to start.
Right. So if you're going through a breakup, you can pick up this book, start with the breakup chapter, then go to chapter 1 and begin again.
Yes, exactly.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So you've been therapy, Jeff, for 3 years now? Almost
3 years, yeah.
What's been your favorite interaction with a fan about how your work has impacted them or changed them?
I have many interactions with fans.
You do.
right?
And your fans are the sweetest.
They are.
They're so kind. And you're the sweetest to your fans. Like, it's really like such a sweet thing to watch a fan come up to you and you're so personable and nice and kind. And it's also nice to see you get acknowledged for the work you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you always create so much like space for that fan to say hello when you're there, and it's you offer to take the picture for them sometimes, and it's so cute. I love how supportive you are when that happens.
Thanks.
And partly, I mean, I think that I would know how to act in that situation regardless, but I try to emulate the one time I went up to my favorite celebrity when I was 18 years old, and I was living in Santa Monica, and I went to the Coffee Bean, and I was there with my girlfriend, and I saw Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 there with his girlfriend, and he was standing outside, and they were drinking coffee, and before I knew it, I just stood up and walked towards him. It's like, I have to have an interaction with this man. I mean, Blink-182 was my favorite band and still is my favorite band. So this is
big deal.
It's a really, really big deal. And I'm 18 years old. I'm a child. And I just I'm losing my mind seeing Mark Hoppus in my town, feet away from me. And I went up to him and I said, "You're Mark Hoppus from Blink-182." And he said, "I am. What's your name?" And him asking my name felt like that was it. I was on cloud 9. And so I said, "I'm Jeff. It's so good to meet you. I love your music." And he was like, "Hey, well, you know what? I just recorded a video for All the Small Things. It's coming out really soon. Make sure you watch your MTV." And I was like, "I will." So then he kind of gave me this little inside scoop. Yeah. That nobody else had. So it felt like I had a really special relationship with him. And then he said, "Thanks for saying hi." And he shook my hand, it felt like, okay, that was it. That was the interaction. I can leave now. And so it felt like there was also like an ending of now you can leave. But it wasn't like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
kid.
right.
And so that's what I've based every single interaction on.
Sure.
That I'm going to say hello. Maybe I'll give them a little piece, inside scoop of information or whatever. I'll ask their name and then I'll say thank you, and they'll know that they can leave. But my favorite interaction was one that I got a while ago, and it's very sweet. As you know, Amy, I enjoy going to concerts, and a lot of times I go by myself. And there was this one time in the summertime, it must have been summer of 2022, I went to go see one of my favorite all-time bands, Third Eye Blind.
Oh, yeah.
And they played at Edgefield over here in Portland, which is just kind of a stage and then a huge lawn, one of those like outside summer shows. And I went there by myself, found my favorite spot, and I was just sitting there and enjoying the opening band, which was Taking Back Sunday.
Ooh.
They were amazing.
Yeah, so exciting.
And I was sitting there all alone, having a great time, because I just want it to be me and Stephen Jenkins, like the lead singer of Third Eye Blind. I just want us to have a connection. I don't want to worry about anybody.
Absolutely.
Taking Back Sunday played. They leave the stage. Third Eye Blind is starting to set up. And in the middle of that, there's these two people that like sat kind of right in front of me, and the young woman turned around and looked at me in my face, and she just sort of quickly recognized me, and she was a few feet away from me, and she started crawling towards me. Really, on all fours, because we were just on the grass. Starts crawling for me, and slowly just sort of, embraces me and gives me a hug. Aww. And I give her a hug, and you can tell there's a lot of emotions going on there. And so it was very sweet. Just sort of like held each other for 15 seconds, and then she backed up and she's like, "Your therapy, Jeff." And I said, "That's right. What's your name?" She tells me, and then she's like, so just yesterday, I broke up with my boyfriend. I had been thinking of ending the relationship with him for months, and I was too scared to do it and really nervous. So maybe this was the wrong thing to do. And I kept on coming across your videos explaining what a healthy relationship looks like. And I was like, this is not my relationship. I'm not in a healthy relationship, but I don't know if I have the strength or courage to do this. I feel too attached. But then I watched one of your videos on how to break up with somebody, and then I did it, and I broke up with him. And then my friend here was just like, let's get the fuck out of town. And so we left LA, started driving north, eventually hit Portland. I'd never been to Portland. And we're like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Oh, Third Eye Blind is playing. They're a great breakup band. Let's just go see Third Eye Blind. And I'm feeling horrible. I'm feeling anxious. And we get to the venue and we find a little spot, and I turn around and it's Therapy Jeff. And I didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but it is the right thing to do. You're here. It's a sign that it was the right thing to do. And I was like, it was the right thing to do. You're so strong. You're so brave. I'm so proud of you. And she was so touched. And she was like, what's your favorite song? I want to know what your favorite song is. And I was like, it's How's It Gonna Be? And I just really want them to play How's It Gonna Be? I haven't seen them in like 20 years, longer, 25 years. So she's like, I hope they play it too. And then Third Eye Blind goes on and they play, and then all the way at the end, they come back for the encore, and the very last song they play is How's It Gonna Be? And she turns around, she hugs me again, she's like, it's your song. And she was like, I could feel her being so anxious and nervous that they weren't going to play the song, and it was something that she wanted me to experience. Right. And so then we got to experience that song together.
The universe just made so many things happen in that moment.
Yeah.
I feel like a little misty-eyed just hearing you tell that story, because your work really like makes such a huge impact on people, and you don't always get to know how much it does. And so I'm glad the universe provided her with the opportunity to get the reassurance that she like did the right thing, but also gave you the opportunity to see how much your work means to people. It's really beautiful, honey.
Yeah. And we kept in touch a little bit. We're like Instagram buddies. Oh, nice. And so I get to see her on her journey. Yeah. And she's been in a relationship now for a little while, and it looks so good and sweet and lovely. And so she's thanked me a few times, and it's great. So yeah, that was one of my favorite fan interactions. And there's been many, but that one has really stuck with me.
And I think it epitomizes too, oh God, one time you and I were asking each other, I think the question was like, what are you most passionate about? And I'd like love for you to elaborate on this, but my memory is that you talked about that you're passionate about helping other people to have the best relationships they can have. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, it just feels like it epitomizes the work you do as Therapy Jeff, the work you do on your podcast, the work you do in this book.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the main things in this book is that the way to heal is through relationship. And also the way to experience trauma is through relationship, right? And we have so much trauma that we've experienced in past relationships. And if you can find somebody who's a good match for you, who also wants to go on their healing journey with you, you can both heal together and create a healing relationship. And I've experienced really profound healing relationships. And I've helped people for 20 years as a therapist find their own healing relationships. But the best part of being a therapist is that sometimes your first really healing relationship is with me,
right,
as your therapist.
Yeah.
And I get to unconditionally love you and not judge you and have compassion for you and care about you and cheerlead for you and problem solve with you. And it's such a special, intimate relationship that you get to have with your therapist. It's also a weird relationship. It's like it's because it's a clinical relationship, and it's one-sided in certain ways. But still, like, because of the way that it's set up, it allows me as a therapist to be like a really healing force and source in your life. And then once you have this very healing relationship with your therapist, you get to then replicate that sort of thing with other people, and you're a lot more clear about what is healthy or not healthy or a good match for you. And I think I've done a pretty good job like distilling that into this book. I'm not your therapist.
Sure. Yeah.
TikTok
Good
is
disclaimer.
not therapy. But it's going to kind of feel like it when you read the book. Yeah.
What impact do you hope your book will have on readers on understanding their relationships with others or with themselves?
I hope that, a lot of the, like we sort of joked, like you said that I was a toxic validator. That comes from somebody on TikTok creating a video about why they don't like Therapy Jeff. And the guy was like, you know what? It's not so much that he's not toxically positive, which is gross. He's more of a toxic validator, where he just like makes everybody feel like their emotional experience is valid. And he was saying that in a way where it's not okay because some other people's emotional experience aren't okay, and they shouldn't feel valid in their feelings and whatever, dude. But I think that comes across in my videos, and especially in the book, where I am validating you. It's okay for you to have all the emotions that you're having. And that's one of the biggest like feedbacks I get, is that you feel seen and you have permission to feel all of your feelings. So I hope that it has that impact. I'm sure it will. And then, I mean, I'm harping on it in the book and in this podcast, but I hope it gets you more in touch with who you authentically are in a way where you can feel brave and courageous enough to be that authentic self. Because that's you. That's like the most attractive part of you is when you're being authentic. We're magnetized to that. You're so compelling. There's something so fucking sexy when somebody is authentically and steps into that alignment with who they really are. And so this book is pushing you into that place and then helping you try to find other people that are also that way, which will create the healing relationship. And then it's also just a ridiculous amount of practical tools on how to navigate relationships. So like I was saying, you can go to just whatever chapter you want, or you and your partners can open it up and flip to the prompts. Or it's not just the 12 prompts at the end of every chapter, but it's questions throughout all the chapters. There's just like hundreds of questions to ask you or your partner. So I think that this is a really great starting point to create an authentic healing relationship. And I think that that's the kind of impact it'll have on you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It already like has revealed to me a lot about myself. And I think it strikes me that maybe it's obvious or doesn't need to be stated, but you won't get what you want unless you are authentic to yourself. So it feels like, do you feel like it's a lifelong journey to find your authentic self? Or do you think you arrive at some point?
I mean, I'm done.
Yeah, right.
Personally. But I think for everybody else, definitely 100%
Yeah.
a lifelong journey unless you are the therapy Jeff.
Yeah. Then you've arrived.
Yeah, I'm enlightened.
Yep,
I'm
exactly.
done here. Yes. And I've taken all of my work and put it into this book so that you can be exactly like me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, yeah, it's a lifelong journey, and you keep on uncovering all this stuff until you leave this mortal plane and go to spirit world.
Yeah.
I'm not religious or anything. I just like to imagine spirit world as a lovely place to go. Yes,
yeah,
I'm
like
very
that
excited.
Too. Yeah. I don't want to spoil the book, and I don't think this does. But sometimes when I am trying to figure out if I like a book or not, I flip to the last couple pages and read maybe the last paragraph. Are you willing to do that for us today?
I am willing to do that for you today.
Yay.
But, and this isn't a spoiler, but if you're like, really, you don't want spoilers at all, then you should turn off the podcast now.
Sure.
And go to your local internet bookstore or your local actual in real life bookstore and go buy Big Dating Energy. It's such I will be paying attention to all the, how many books are sold in the first week. And when you go and buy that book, it'll make me feel so good.
Yeah. And as Jeff's girlfriend, I just want to say, like, and as a longtime Therapy Jeff fan, like, we get so much free content from you. We've benefited from your work for so long. And buying a book, buying an audiobook, rating the podcast, these are just like a way to give back to Jeff and say thank you for everything he's done. And you're going to benefit so much from it. So definitely in the first week, buy that book.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the last part at the end of the book. And it starts with, it would be convenient and way neater if we could look back at every relationship and be like, oh, this is what I was ignoring. I'll make sure to never ignore it again. But that's not how life works. Our needs and desires evolve over time, and it's not always possible to predict the trajectory of that evolution. The end of a relationship is not a failure. You are not limited to one big love. Big divorce energy? Next. Yes, there's a profound sense of loss in acknowledging that our paths sometimes diverge from a partner's, but there's also an empowering realization that comes with it. We all have the capacity to learn, change, and adapt. We are not mentally or emotionally frozen in time, thank God. We are dynamic and capable of growth. So fuck yeah, every year is my best year. Every year is Kate's goddamn best year. And every year is your best fucking year ever. Because each year brings with it new experiences, lessons, and opportunities for growth. Every year, we get more clarity on our needs and wants, both within a relationship and as an individual. We get more in touch with our authentic self. That, my friends, is not a waste of effort, ever. I go on in the book, and there's a few more paragraphs to really sum it up, but I'm going to end there. I'm really happy with the book and how it turned out, and I can't wait for you to grab it and tell me what you think.
Problems. Okay. We've identified